of SWAC football. So I don't think it really matters. Yes, it's early. It's week 2, so you get a really good test. Bama State's a team that is on the rise. They won the MEAC SWAC Challenge last year. Eddie Robinson Jr. second year, and then you come home and play Jackson State. A good start, I think, for Southern University. See where you are. It's not like your first couple of weeks, and then you just kind of just let it roll off. But these are 2 games that you can possibly win if you play well, and then you feel good about your season early in the season. Typically, like us, we open with USN, even F, and then McNeese, kind of where we would land in that mix. But with Southern schedule, you kind of know because you're playing teams you could possibly beat, the first couple of weeks. So I think it's a really good schedule for Southern to start, and we'll see. I mean, because there are questions: who's going to be the quarterback at Jackson State? Who's going to be the quarterback at Southern University? And I think those questions we'll be talking about it throughout, with the signing period and all that. We'll see, but I think those questions will lead to games like this. Will continue to elevate the hype and build up for both of those games.
Well, I'm going to talk about that as well. Time permits. What are we looking for as far as Southern's quarterback? As of course, Bashawn McCray in the transfer portal. I haven't seen where he's at he has a new home yet. But Southern University, they recruited 2 outstanding freshman quarterbacks, and lest people forget, Noah Bolton, a 3-star quarterback, is in the Southern University football program. Got there last year. Um, I'm I'm willing to say, and then Southern brought in a transfer from the University of AB, Alabama Birmingham. I'm willing to bet that, in my humble opinion, I think Bolton. It's I think he if he gets a start going into the fall and the spring, I would not be surprised. Just from things that I'm hearing, it's starting off very well now. A year in the system, knows the playbook, so it'll be interesting. A lot more to talk about with that. I'm gonna get through the rest of the schedule. Alabama A&M, September the 16th. Alabama A&M comes back on Southern schedule. That's in Baton Rouge. Then September the 23rd, there's a bye for Southern University. Then September the 30th, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff on the road at Arkansas Pine Bluff. Then October the 7th, FAMU comes to Baton Rouge. So you're looking at the first 4 or 5 games, very attractive games, but also tough games. Then October the 14th is homecoming, Lincoln University out of California, who will be playing a couple of Southwestern Athletic Conference teams. They're on FAMU's schedule. So for particular Southern University alums I talked to, um, they weren't happy about having Lincoln on the schedule, but I don't know if it'll make you feel better. Um, that team is playing in a couple of SWAC games at Lincoln University. That's homecoming. October 21st at Bethune Cookman. And you're already hearing, will that game be in Jacksonville or will it be in Daytona Beach? We will see. Then October 28th, Texas Southern. That's home for Southern University. The last few years, they played in a classic in the Dallas area. Southern fans that I talked to are very happy that that game, they don't have to go to Texas. Hopefully, in the near future, they will as well. But that's a home game. Then November the 4th at Alcorn State. That's always tough going on the reservation. November the 11th. That's Prairie View A&M at home, Senior Day and Military Appreciation Game, a 2 p.m. game, a bye November the 18th, and then the 50th Annual Bayou Classic at 1 p.m. So that's the schedule, Charles, a very attractive schedule. And I know you have these too early predictions and all that. Not going to get into that, but an attractive schedule. The highlights is going on the road, the first game against Alabama State, playing Jackson State at home, also finally getting Texas Southern at home, back to home, and then having Alabama A&M on the schedule. So a very attractive schedule.
Yeah, I mean, you want to play as many home games as you possibly can. At the FBS level, 7 is the standard. If you look at LSU's schedule, you look at teams in the FBS, they are dead set. They literally have to play 7 home games. In our conference, probably not that. We can get
No,
6 some years, 5 most years, some years 4, just depends on how the schedule falls. But if you can get 5 home games in this league, 5 home games a year, then I think you're doing really well. And I think for Southern, very attractive, because again, there's a lot of questions going in, and you want to have these home games to be able to get some things done. So me as someone who follows Southern closely, I'm glad that our schedule was released day on Tuesday. Well, I already had most of the schedule already. A friend from USM called me and said, "Hey, we're playing you guys Labor Day weekend." I didn't know that until I got a call a couple of weeks ago, and I got not too long
Charles.
ago. But
Charles, you're
uh-huh,
breaking. Oh, there you go. You were breaking up. I heard you say something about Southern Miss, and I couldn't make
yeah.
out the other part.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, Southern Miss. A friend of mine from Southern Miss called me and said, "Well, we're opening up against you guys." I didn't know, who we were planning to open up with. I thought it would be Stephen F. Austin like we did last year, but it's Southern Miss, and our band will be there. And our AD talked about getting that game, by the way, at the signing party the other day, and glad to get that. We set a record crowd over there the last time we were there. It'll be even more people with Tyler Macon, this highly anticipated quarterback we have. And USM, a bowl team from a year ago. They're not the same old USM team that, 2-9, 3-8, 4-7. They made a bowl game last year, so it's gonna be rocking down there in Hattiesburg. But then, we got Stephen F. and then we have McNeese. 3 tough games to start, but then once we get into it, we got Southern coming to us for the first time in a while. Grambling's coming in, and Prairie View. So I think for all of our teams, from what I'm hearing pretty attractive schedules, especially at home. And we'll see, because there's so many questions, more questions this year than there was last year. We're looking for stability. We don't have it yet. You don't. Who's the quarterback at Southern? Who's the quarterback at Grambling? Looks like Calvez will be that guy. I mean, who's the quarterback at Valley? So there's a lot of questions, and I think with this schedule, you can kind of see how things round out. So I'm looking forward to seeing, from the player personnel perspective, who does what, who's going to be out in front in the spring. I'm just looking forward to all of that.
I was having a discussion, and you look at it. I mean, we often talk about um, very athletic quarterbacks. We've used the term dual threat quarterbacks. To me, Macon fits both of those categories: a very athletic quarterback and a dual threat. But having a discussion, and I think even Coach Sanders, oh yep, that name, mentioned it in this conference. I think now you've got to have a quarterback that's accurate and can spin it, who can throw it. You know, athleticism is okay when something is not there. You have the athleticism to be able to make plays, but I think most of the emphasis have been on athletic quarterbacks, and I'm wondering. I'm going to be watching to see if the trend now goes back to guys who can throw it. The first priority is to be accurate and be able to throw the ball, and then if nothing is there, then be able to make plays with your legs. I'm just going to be interested to see, will we see that starting to develop within the conference in college of football. We've had our fields. In my humble opinion, you look at Southern University the last couple of years. Deshaun McCray, m- I guess more athletic than an accurate thrower. Skelton, of course, more athletic than a accurate thrower. And then you look at Bubba McDaniels, who you would say his best traits are that he was a guy who can make every pass, throw it. And I think that's where most Southern University alum and fans that I've talked to are still hot as fish grease. They feel that that should have been the quarterback all of along. And based off what you saw, they have a legitimate argument. But I don't want to go into quarterbacks, this and that, because ultimately that decision goes down to the coach and coaches who see them in practice, who's with them every day. And that decision, Charles, is on those coaches. And if they make it, they have to live with it. So to wrap it up, I want to see if the trend will eventually go to quarterbacks that can spin it, that can throw it, that can make every pass, can go through their reads. Not so much the first priority looking at a quarterback that's very athletic, because you have an athlete back there playing quarterback. I want a quarterback who's a quarterback that can spin it, and we'll see. We'll take a quick timeout. There's also I want to get the information for the Southern Knights. They're signing day, and a lot of times now it's not as dramatic as before because, Charles, you have an early signing period. Some schools have commitments early on, so about time February the 4th comes the traditional signing date, it's not as much excitement because you already know. But it is important in recruiting, and you want to look and see the mixture of high school athletes, transfer portal, and junior college athletes coming in. So you see a mix of that. And also, Coach Pettaway will join us very shortly. We'll go into some more of the Southwest Athletic Conference basketball. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
Can I get the now bar, please?
$1.
Have a good one.
Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like the day is breezy. This motivation for the people, and this classic Bible teaching say, hey, this for my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like the day is breezy. This motivation for the people, and this classic Bible teaching, motivation.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, My colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are...
I'm returning to Clinton, Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton, Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coach Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Now joined by the coach, Coach Van Pettaway. Coach, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. I'm happy to be here, man. Get ready for another great week of SWAC basketball.
Oh, you have that look in your eye. I wonder why. Is that because Southern is in Huntsville today, part of that Alabama swing?
Well, yep, you know, the dog pound, they're rattling the cage right now so that the dog pound will be hungry and ready to go.
I wouldn't expect anything less because, Coach, Southern on the men's side, leading the conference. On the women's side, Jackson State. We'll get into a little bit of that. Last week, me and Charles talked about it. I guess the game of the week last Saturday, Southern and Alcorn State. Coach, Southern wins the ball game 80-68. I'm not surprised Southern won. I think you said Southern was favorite being at home. I guess I was surprised maybe a little bit by the margin of victory. And the game was chippy, as we talked about all game. And then at the end, you had kind of that incident where the game's basically over. Southern player dunks the basketball when the Alcorn player extends his hand. So we kind of gave our comments about that. But you being the coach, your thoughts on that ball game and then the incident and was it too much made of it, or was it just something that happens? And have you ever been in that kind of place as far as that thing happening when you were coaching?
All right. Well, first of all, the game itself, I thought it was a great game. I got a chance to see parts of it, and I expected both teams to go at it that way because you're talking about a defending champion playing a team that's leading the conference. So you knew that the energy was going to be there for both teams. Now, in terms of the play, stuff like that's going to happen in basketball. You're going to have it where Uh, Players are going to go at it, and they're not going to stop until that whistle blows. So that can be expected. And yes, I've had plenty of things that happened to me toward the end of the game. For instance, we were playing somebody, and we stopped because it's only 4 or 5 seconds on the clock, and the team went on and scored the basketball. That's happened. That not only happened to me, it happened to a lot of people. So that's just a part of the game. The only thing you do as a coach, you're gonna put it in your memory bank now, so that when that opportunity presents itself again for you, you're gonna remember that, and you're gonna remind your players of that, because now that's bulletin board material. That's a way of you giving your team a chance of motivating themselves. So that's just a part of it. That goes with the game.
Yeah, me and Charles talked about it. I was kind of disappointed, emotional guy myself, but
Right.
yeah, things happened, and you're right. That will be in the memory, and me and
Right.
Charles talked about it. I think they will see each other again.
Yep.
I
Yep.
think so. So I was just shocked watching it, watching it happen, But hey, who am I?
Yep.
I'm just an emotional guy, but I just kind of wish it wouldn't have happened, to be honest
Right.
with you. But nevertheless, a very good game, and Southern University defeats Alcorn State 80-68. Then you look at that Monday, Coach. You have a Jackson State game, and the big thing about that was Southern was up 40-15. People were like, "Well, you know what? Throw the towel in. Throw the damn
Right.
towel in." But in the back of my mind, a team that got embarrassed in the first half, if they're any kind of competitors, they're going to
They're gonna
come
fight
back in the
back.
second half. And that's what I saw. And some people have told me, wow, Southern's got to learn how to close. I can understand them having that point of view as well. But I knew Jackson State was going to play much better in the second half. And Southern wins by 11, 73-62.
Right. That's a rival game, so you can expect that to, there's so many ebbs and flows in a game, and you knew that they were going to come back, and you just wanted to make sure that the Jaguar fans wanted to make sure that they had enough in the tank to overcome whatever Jackson State came up with in that second half.
Yeah, I'm glad for the win. It's Jackson State. It could be 5. Yeah, I would have loved a 50-point victory. That was not the case, guys. So you're
Right.
happy with the win. Um,
But
Charles, go ahead.
Carlos, one of the other games that was intriguing to me was the Prairie View and Texas Southern game.
Mhm.
Prairie View going on the road, playing their rival. Game goes to overtime. I mean, that I got a chance to watch that game. That was a great game. That was a great game. Both teams went at it, and then to go to overtime, and Prairie View being able to pull away in that overtime period. Uh, Nice crowd. That's the kind of atmosphere that you're used to.
And guys, I don't know if it was Coach Pettaway or Charles. I think it was you, Coach Pettaway, said, "Watch out, Texas Southern was getting
Yep.
healthier." And I look at the standings with 3-6 in conference, 7-15 overall. Let's kind of just look at the conference race. We're gonna watch Texas Southern, but Southern, Alcorn State, Grambling State, UAPB,
Yep.
and Jackson State. 1, 2, 3, 4, the top 5 teams. When I talk about and when Charles talks about on the men's side, this could go down to the last playing date. Are we still in agreement with that?
Yes, I think so. Southern is not. They haven't separated themselves, and Alcorn is right there. So it's got to go down to. I think both of these teams are going to be fighting toward the end, and Gramblin's not giving up because Grambling know that they got a chance to play the people above them. So they're not giving up either. So this race is going to go toward the end. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Charles, you agree?
Yeah, I do. And look, I was on record on this show that saying that Texas Southern was done. They were 0 and they were 0 and
Mhm.
4 when we played them. First time in 60 years that they were 0 and 4 to start conference play. Then they lose to Alcorn. They were 0 and 5 They were down 17 to Jackson State, and they win that game at the buzzer. Then they win 2 in Alabama. So I'm thinking, okay, they may have gotten off the mat, but then Prairie View knocked them right back down on the mat.
Back down. Yep.
They're 3-6, but if you look at the standings, you're 3-6, but you're only one game out of sixth place.
Right.
And so I think if you're Texas Southern, you feel like, and they weren't healthy early on. They're getting healthier. I don't know how healthy they are emotionally, but I think Texas Southern is right there. They still got to go to Alcorn. They still got to go to Jackson. They got some tough places to play and try to get off the mat. So I do think 1 through 8 is going to be hotly contested. Bama State at the 8th seed. Even FAMU, if they get hot, we go to Florida next week. So I think that this race will be determined in the last game or two of the season. And what makes it even more intriguing, and we've been saying this, when you only play on a team one time, it's not the old days of the SWAC in which you see each other twice. We only see Southern one time, and that was last week. And so they got the tiebreaker. We got to finish ahead of them to be the 1 seed if it comes to that. So I think you got to add that element into the pot as well. But I think 1 through 8, even 9, you just don't know because teams can get hot. We knocked off the hottest team in the league in Grambling, and Southern University got knocked down, and then they beat us, and Grambling was hot. They won 3 in a row until we beat them. So you just don't know which is the flavor of the day. You just have to play it out, and we'll see what happens. I mean, Pine Bluff rolls in here. No one's giving them a chance, but they're going to play hard. So we got to watch that game. So there are a lot of good basketball left to be played. Nothing is going to be determined till the end.
Yep.
I would agree, and I'm kind of intrigued because I think before the conference season started, I think we talked about who was the best team. Now I understand Texas Southern was picked to win it all, but remember we reset and we talked about Southern, Alcorn State, and Grambling. Coach Penaway, Grambling State University. I still think that they're still in the top 3, and they're in 3rd place right now, 6-3. What do you think about Grambling State? Just looking at them, I think they can get it done.
Right.
And,
Coach
and,
Jackson
and
has
fight
a good,
for that.
right. He
Go
has
ahead,
a
Coach.
good team. And Coach Jackson has a good team, and I think he's got depth, he's got size, and I think they're hungry. So that's why I think that they're still in this mix. And when you look at what they did in the preseason, it tells you that team came together early. They gelled early. They got their confidence going, and they're a team that they're gonna have to be contended with. Now they're not giving up. They still got games that they can win. They can play against teams down the stretch with a lot of depth in there. They got a lot of depth. Their bench is probably one of the strongest that's in the league right now. So I look for Grambling to be in the mix at the end of the year. They're going to finish in the top 3. They're going to be fighting for that number 1 spot. They're not giving up.
How dangerous can this UAPB team be, Coach Fedaway?
Well, with all those transfers, man, they're playing well, man. He hit the portal, and he's got those kids playing, and that's why my big game today is the Alcorn game because they are hosting Pine Bluff. You'll see what they're made of now because Alcorn has always been a tough place to play in. So you'll tell a lot about where Pine Bluff is with their performance today. And they can come out of there with a win, you know that they're for real. And I think what he's probably looking at, if he can just go down there and play well, he would probably still take that. But a victory and the league will be on notice if they can go in the Alcorn and come out.
And I think Pine Bluff is playing with house money too, Carlos. I mean, because when you look at it, 6 months ago when we talked about SWAC basketball, did we think UAPB would be where they are right now? No.
Nope.
And so they're playing with house money. They can just let it loose, foot loose and
Yep.
fancy free. That's kind of where they are. I mean, they have 2 of the top 5 scorers in the conference in Dawson Milton, and they play D. I mean, their athletic website put out a pretty good defensive scenario. I can't remember what home game they were where they just locked it down defensively. So they're kind of like us. I think it could be a low-scoring game, a grinder of a game. if you get first team to 60 wins, I think, because that's just the way UAPB plays. Their coach is tough. They're tough nosed, just like our team is with Landon Bussey and the way he coaches. So I think the intensity of this game, if you undersell the intensity of this game, you're going to be sadly mistaken because Landon Bussey's after it and playing at home. It's alumni weekend. I mean, you can easily take your foot off the gas a little bit because you're at home, but Landon Bussey takes the opposite approach. He is full tilt ready for this game, considering what happened last Saturday. And because our only loss, well, one of our two losses was here on this floor. So he's full tilt ready to go today. And he has UAPB's respect for sure.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting, guys, that you often hear this cliche: a team takes on the personality of their coaches, and you can see it. And Coach Bussey kind of reminds me of the guy on the screen here, Coach Pettaway. Very intense. Yeah, Coach Pettaway, you seem to have mellowed out now after coaching, but boy, when the coaching days, I I literally was kind of like, wow, I don't know if should I even attempt to talk to him coming off that court. Very
No,
intense, but
that was just doing the game, Carlos. That was just doing the game. I wore the game on my sleeve. I wanted to be intense because I wanted my team to be intense. I wanted them to get after it. I wanted them to play for 40 minutes. And as soon as that clock struck zero, I was all right, just like my team was all right. And I think more coaches are making sure that they're elevating their players by making sure that they're engaged during the game. Back during the day, old school, that was just old school basketball. That's the way a lot of the coaches did it. You know, they were just intense, and because they wanted their teams to be intense. But you know, in this day and time, you have to pick your shots now because a lot of the kids now they're not accustomed to that. So, but it's a good thing, and I think each coach has to figure out how they have to motivate their own players. Like my coaching style was not for every player on my team because you got different personalities, so you have to approach different players different ways. Now, everybody was expected to do well. It's just that on the individual basis, like I would have to talk to Obi Trotter different than I would of Frank Silman. I would have to
right, I
talk to Frank
understand.
Silman a different way than I would somebody else on the team. So you have to know that's in getting to know your players. That's why it's very important that you get to know your players so they understand you, and that way they'll know that there is never personal. It's me trying to get the best out of you. And then I think once they understand that, you have a bunch of kids that'll run through a wall for you when they see that. Because off the court, they know that I'll do anything for them. They know that
Right.
I'm there for them. They can count on me. And I think that's what you got to have more of. I thought the NC2A messed us up when they went to that 20-hour work week where we couldn't be around our kids a lot. I think that took away from that personal touch, man. Because when are you gonna have time to sit down with that kid and talk to him about his family? You know, when
Right.
it's not
Life.
time for practice or time for a game. When are you gonna be able to sit down and talk to that kid about campus life? When are you gonna be able to sit down and talk to that kid about his mental stability? You know, the things that he's going through with your team and adjusted to college life. When are you gonna get a chance to do all of that when they put all these doggone restrictions on you?
Yeah, that's a great point. Um, and then I want to ask you about this. I'm gonna put a little curve, but it's still basketball related. Um, Two things. I was listening to Rob J and Daryl Asbury on the Jackson State um, Southern women's basketball game, and they brought up, in particular, Daryl Asbury. He brought up something that I've brought up, even a year or two ago. You have three officials, right? You have two out on the perimeter. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then you have one on the
And on the
baseline,
best.
under the
Right.
basket. Boy, Daryl Asbury was hot because there's an infraction right there, but the baseline referee he always referred out to the per- perimeter referee, and Darryl said the same thing. Why does he have to every time defer to the perimeter official? And coach, how about the time when it was just only two officials and you didn't have that third one? Or am I making too much of this? I just need to let it go. I guess that's it gets me in a soapbox about
Let me
that.
tell you what. Let me tell you what I was always told by the officials. They have certain areas of the floor that they're responsible for,
Right.
and they don't like cross. They don't like crossing over into another person's area, and that's how you do it. But my only concern was, okay, just make sure that those areas and the areas that you all are covering are the same on both ends of the floor. You know,
Hmm.
don't you know don't be on top of it when it's against me. Let it go both ways. And if they're doing it the right way on both ends of the floor as a coach, we don't have a problem. Or the only other thing, Carlos, I'll tell you, an official can blow a call, but if that official will acknowledge that to me, I'm through with it. I don't say another word.
Hmm.
I don't say another word.
I
But that guy
understand.
that blows that call and then act like he didn't do anything, or I'm gonna try to take his head off.
Well, I understand, Coach Charles, but it just, I don't know. Maybe I just need to get over it. But I almost wish it was just back the way it used to be. Two officials, but I know players are so athletic now, bigger. But
And
wow,
bigger.
that guy is on the baseline. I mean, wait a minute. He never makes a call. He's right there. But anyway, I'll get off of that. And then Charles, go ahead, Charles. You wanted to say something.
Well, I think that baseline official is looking at more so that semicircle blocking foul, charging foul type of calls. Those are the ones that they're looking at. But I do think that by having a fourth official, maybe two on the baseline, because usually what happens, the play is away from him on the right or left side where he can't exactly get the best angle. So he defers to one of those wing officials. That's kind of what you see a lot of, because I've seen that quite a bit in which the official puts his hand up, he didn't see it, and then the wing official kind of comes in and overrules. And yeah, from a technique standpoint, from an operation standpoint, it doesn't look good, but you want to get the call right. And I think that's kind of where, if the baseline official doesn't see it, he defers to the one that has the best angle. So I mean, we can agree, disagree. Coaches, and I agree with Coach Petaway because our coach Nate Kilbert says it all the time. If you're gonna give them that call on this end, give me my call on this end. I hear it every single game, at least for the Lady Braves anyway, because I'm right there with Coach Kilbert. So, Coach Petaway is exactly
I
right on that one.
I guess I'm trying to understand, and what you're saying is very well. But if it's 10, okay, he can't see, his view is blocked, say 10 times. No, 8 out of 10 times. I I don't know. I guess the
I
optics of
wouldn't
it.
say 8. I would probably say out of 10
Oh, I've
times,
I've
maybe
seen
3.
three. Oh, Charles,
Right.
you're very nice and
Carlos,
conservative. Uh-huh.
hey Carlos, it sounds like that official just had a bad game.
Well, I've seen it several times, but hey, I'll probably have referees sending me nasty emails now because get off their back. But look, I understand that they're human and they make mistakes, and I know you have coverage areas, but it just I don't know. Maybe the perimeter referees have better angles. It seems like it. I don't know, but
Right.
I'll
They
move
got
on
more
from that.
space. They have more space to maneuver. That baseline official, they're limited to where they can go.
Do we need them then? Could
Yes,
the
you
game
got to have some.
survive? Wait a minute,
Man,
could
if
the
you don't
game
have anybody on that
survive?
baseline, hey, if you don't have anybody on that baseline, it'll be more mugging going on in that lane.
That's exactly right.
But
Yeah.
that's old school basketball. No. Okay, I lose that argument. I understand. Get off the third official. The other thing was Coach Woods got a technical foul. Help me out, folks. I've known in the past in that little coaching box on the court, And during the game, I've seen Coach Woods, maybe he forgets where he's at. He
Right.
literally
Yep.
almost gets knocked over. Well, this time, the referees, I knew it was coming. They called a technical foul on him. And it was in the Jackson State point, and that could have been a momentum changer. But I guess the emotions of everything, got to him. But and guess who made that call? It wasn't the baseline official. It was the
Yeah,
perimeter official.
yeah.
So good job, perimeter officials.
I think something like that, Carlos, to me, it's a crew to crew deal. There's some crews to me. I mean, we all know what the rules are in terms of being in the coaching box. I
Mhm.
think the SWAC has a little bit more of a lenient policy on that. I think if you get a crew that's pretty by the book, you might be warned, and then if you do it again, you get teed up. Other crews are a little bit
Yep.
more liberal on that. Now, by the book, if you go by the book, you're not. I mean, most of the time officials will give a coach a warning on that because we all know the emotions of the game, and coaches can literally be at mid-court coaching. I'm sure if Coach Petaway could be at mid-court coaching his team, he would, but that's
Yep.
not allowable. But I think that most crews will just give you a warning. Hey, coach, it may have been 2 or 3 times that it happened before you get teed. I have yet to see a coach get teed up. Well, yes, I have. It's been a while, but it rarely happens, especially in our league. It rarely, rarely happens. Maybe Coach Woods was warned 3 or 4 times quietly, and just and I think just that last time was enough, and he got teed up. That's kind of the way I interpret it. I wasn't there, but you don't see that too often in our league.
Well, I don't
Right.
have a
But if you
problem
know,
with the call.
right. Hey, but Charles, if you know Coach Woods, man, you think about it now. Even when he was at Valley, he always was on the court.
Yeah,
That's just him. He's intense. He's in the game, and then yes, he forgets sometimes where he is on the floor. He's been
yeah,
out, man, where the players are running before. So that's that's not unusual for me now because I've watched him since he was at Valley and at Valley Southern when he was up at Morehead State, same thing. That's just him
Mhm.
because he's in the game. He's talking to his players. He's not out there after the officials now. He's trying to instruct his players or
Mhm.
get his players to do something, and he just happens to come out. I take it back to he might have a flashback and think he's in practice, where he can just come out like that. But he's not. There's no malice. There's no bad ill will or intent when he does that.
yeah,
He's just caught up in the game, and that's where a good assistant would come in. He's got to grab him. He's got to grab him by the. He got to grab him, and pull him back. Coach, step back. Coach, step back. And then a good head coach, he's not gonna have a problem with that. Coach Hayes has saved me plenty of time. And
Mm.
I know he's doing what's right. I might not be seeing that I'm out on the court. He'll grab my coat and say, "Coach, come back, man," and he'll pull me back, and I don't get upset. I thank him. Thanks, man. I didn't know. So
yeah,
maybe hey, I might need to put a bug in his assistant coach's ear. Y'all need to help keep him off the court, man. But that's a part of basketball, man. That's a part of being
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah. I just don't want to see, in the motion of it and you forget where you're at and a player runs by and you
Come too close.
collide.
Yep.
And don't
Yep.
want the
Yep.
coach to get hurt or
Yep.
or the player. But for Southern, Coach Woods, they are rolling 8-1 on the women's side. I saw Jackson State women up close and personal, and hey, they are talented and they are tall. Their post play, and Southern hung in with them for a while, but at the end of the day, they lost a 7-point game, and they're huge in the post, and they can get things done. And what kept Southern close was Southern had a particular good game from the 3-point area, and that kind of kept them close for a while. But Jackson State coach and Charles, they are the best team in the conference. But when you look at what's behind them, Alabama State six
Wow.
and three, Southern 6-3, Prairie View 6-3, Alabama A&M 6-3, Bethune Cookman 6-3, and then you got Arkansas Pine Bluff 5-4. There's still plenty to play for, guys. But my goodness, who's going to win? Who's going to end up second?
Right.
That's a
I just
big
think
question to me.
that yeah, that was a big weekend last week. Jackson State went into Grambling and won. Then of course they beat you all. I think for me, my disappointment was in my Lady Bulldogs. They go on the road and they drop
Mhm.
two. I did not expect that. I did not expect that. I going into the weekend, I felt like they had a chance to be in second place by themselves, and it didn't happen. So now you got to make up for it. Now you certainly cannot lose at home. Now they're playing Southern, another team that's 6-3. They got to be ready to play today. They must be ready to play. And if I know Coach Richards, after that loss to Bethune Cookman and to Florida A&M, I think she'll probably have her ladies ready to play. But this is a big weekend for a lot of teams, and I'm just looking forward to it.
Who would you have as a game of the week, guys? As far as on the women's side and the men's for today, Saturday.
Well, on the women's side, I got Southern at A&M.
Hmm.
That's my game of the week for the women.
How about on the men's side?
On the men's side, I got Alcorn and Pine Bluff.
Buff. Charles?
I'm looking at the schedule right now. What I saw from Grambling, my alma mater, I mean, they just couldn't shoot the basketball, their women's team the other day. I could not envision that. Um, I would say if I'm gonna look at a game of the week, I would say Prairie View and Bethune Cookman. I mean, because you're looking at all these teams that are tied for second place. So I'm looking
Right.
at that. And so I'm looking at that matchup. I'm looking at Bethune Cookman and Prairie View. I'm looking at that being one of the big, because someone is going to leak away and be in second place. A
Right.
couple of teams, actually. So I'm looking at that because I look at Prairie View as a team. Sandy Pugh's finally getting the team that's in her makeup. And then Bethune Cookman has a player that our coach Nate Kilbert said could play at the WNBA level, volume score. I mean, she can shoot lights out. So I think that's going to be, I would say that I would put that game right there, Bethune Cookman Prairie View, as one of the games of the week. A long trip from Daytona to Houston. I'm looking to see how Bethune Cookman responds after playing well at home against the Bama teams.
And what
And
about the men's side?
On the men's side, I'm anxious to see what Southern does against Alabama State and Alabama A&M. I mean, and we've seen. Look, I was going to mention this earlier. The Alcorn effect. Okay, so when Alcorn beat Texas Southern in Prairie View, I was wondering, will those teams bounce back? Well, Texas Southern did. Prairie View didn't until they beat Texas Southern. They went to Alabama and dropped two. Um, and so I'm anxious to see what Southern does after winning two tough games. They led Jackson by 25 and had to hang on. They led Alcorn by 17 and pulled away late. And now you go to Alabama State and Alabama A&M. I think those two teams are much improved. And if Southern stumbles and bumbles their way through those two, they're going to drop one, maybe two, and then open the door again. I'm anxious to see what Southern does today at Alabama A&M. I'm not going to say that new arena is the dog pound quite yet, Coach, because that Elmore Gym to me is the dog pound. That's the dog
Yep.
pound to me. As tough as it gets.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I'm anxious to see, Carlos, to see how your Jaguars do today. They've got the lead. They're in first place. And now how you handle it. That's going to be the key when you go on the road.
Coach Pettaway, you see how I'm looking?
Yeah.
Everybody sees how I'm looking. Charles
Yeah.
always has one eye on Southern and one eye. If I didn't know any better, I think Charles may have wished he was a Southern alum, but I don't know. He's going to always
Well,
have
in
an
this
eye on
case, Southern,
Southern.
in this
Oh,
case, you got
because
to because
Alcorn's
they're
right
in first
behind.
place. They're in
Yeah,
first place, so
But
you got to.
I
but look, I'm
understand.
gonna tell you something.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna tell you something that I really like about Charles. Charles, he's got the effect now because you think about this. Grambling, he had the Grambling effect and the Alcorn effect. So he's got both sides of Southern. He's got Southern in the middle. So he's
He's
coming
got
at him both ways.
He's got Southern on the brain. He's gonna always Southern could be on a 4-game winning streak. He's gonna say yes, but however,
Can they get by?
he's always looking at Southern. Maybe it's because he wants to see me sweat a little bit. But
A little bit
I
of that, Carlos. A
oh, I
little bit of
know.
that, but a lot of it is the Jaguar Nation. I just love the Jaguar Nation and just the passion. Alkanites have that passion. Jacksonians have that passion. But the Jaguar Nation has a passion that just takes it to a whole nother level, and they're just all over it. And it doesn't matter what sport, baseball, softball, basketball, football, it doesn't matter. And I've been in Baton Rouge enough to feel it, to taste it. The SWAC baseball tournament was there. So that's why I always have my eyes on the Jaguars, because at any point they can get hot and that fan base just goes crazy. And then they can go crazy the other way too when you're losing, like what happened in the SWAC championship game. So I feel all of that, and I appreciate and love the passion that they have, because besides Alcorn and Jackson, it's really something special.
Well, and I think every institution, they have that rabid fan base. You have the fan base that's kind of laid back. Then you have the young. Then you have an older fan base. You gotta love HBCU culture. I couldn't put it any other way, especially in the sports world. Well, Coach Pettaway, as always, it's been a pleasure. Maybe next week, I don't know. Maybe we'll get a little NBA in. It's kind of interesting. The trade deadline would have happened.
Right.
My goodness, I'm still not happy with my Heat. I'm sorry.
I
They're
was just
very
going to say,
inconsistent.
your Heat got to come with it and take advantage of it.
I mean, they're over 500 now, but they'll have a big win like at Cleveland. Then they'll lose to Charlotte. Unbelievable. Oh, well.
Bad year to be in the East. Bad year to be in the East.
Well, and I think the East is actually better than the Western Conference. But
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they
just
are.
my opinion. And I'm still trying to argue because I'm in Louisiana, of course, why I'm not a Pelicans fan. I just like the Heat. I've always have since
Because
2008.
they're in the West.
Yeah,
because the
but
Pelicans are in the West. Yeah.
But you know what? I wish they were back in the East. I think it would have been better. But then, hey, they're on a losing streak right now, and Mr. Williams has not been healthy, but it's been better than previous years. So we'll throw in a little NBA next week, Coach.
Okay.
Well, watch that game this afternoon, Southern A&M. It should be a barn burner.
Oh, yes.
Well, we'll talk with you next week, Coach. Stay safe and continue to be blessed.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you. You all have a great day. See you, Carlos.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We're going to take a quick
I'm
time
here.
out. We're over.
I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Yes, we're overdue. We're going to speak with Willa Brown next. We're going to take a quick time out. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon. So now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language. And she really loves her grandson. Like really loves.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
HBCU League Pass. Watch your favorite black colleges. Some of the best players in the land. HBCU League Pass. It's game time. I'm proud and I love my HBCU. HBCU League Pass. Watch your favorite black colleges. Some of the best players in the land. HBCU League Pass. It's game time. I'm proud and I love my HBCU.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
You know, I love that song, Willa. Bethune-Cookman University, the Wildcat bands. You know, hey, I think I need to incorporate more of the bands that just can't be Southern University's band, the Human Jukebox, all the time. Welcome back to the Carlos Brown Show. We'll have Charles Edmonds rejoining us, but now I'm going to visit with Willa Brown, Director of Athletics at Fort Valley State. And as always, Willa, it's a pleasure having you on. What is going on in the world of athletics at Fort Valley State?
Well, Charles, you know, it's crunch time in terms of basketball season. And, you know, we're no exception. Right now, we are, I believe, tied for third or fourth in the SIC on the men's side, probably around sixth or seventh on the women's side. We're young both ways. New coach on the women's side, the men's coach. This is just his second year, and so we're young in the coaching area, pretty much all the way around, and we're growing. We're growing. I think we have a lot of work to do on both sides, but the men are a little further along than the women. We have the preseason player of the year on our roster, and he's doing a great job. We just got to get the other guys to kind of rise up to that level, and I think we've lost 4 out of our last 5, somewhere around there. Morehouse beat us in double overtime the other day, and we're at Benedict today, so hopefully we can get back right and try to get it moving in the right direction. It's close to conference tournament time, so we want to make sure we get a good seeding for the tournament.
Now, Willie, your background, I know is is athletics all across the board. Um, Former basketball coach as well, right?
Yes, I coached college basketball for about probably a total of like 13, 14 years. I was a head coach at a community college outside of Baltimore for 8 years. Coached 4 years at a Division II school up in Wheeling, West Virginia. I also coached at Bowie State. So been around a little bit on the basketball side. Kind of fell in love with basketball, even though I'm a football player at heart, and football will always probably be number one to me. But kind of fell in love with the intricacies of basketball. So I really like college basketball and the strategizing and those kind of things that go along with it.
Well, that information leads me into this. At being director of athletics, and then with emphasis also in basketball, how tempting is it to offer advice to the coaches, or do you just stay out of it and don't offer any advice?
I try to stay out of it, Carlos, for the most part, unless it's solicited. Our coaches, our coaches know, of my background, that sort of thing, and sometimes they'll stop in the office and ask my view of things, or stuff like that, and I kind of give that out. But it's a different day today, Carlos. I haven't coached
Mhm.
since 2001. So we're
Mhm.
talking 22 years now, that sort of thing, since I've been on the sideline, and the world has changed. I ain't gonna say the world has changed. I'll say kids have changed, and
Mhm.
I don't know that they can handle my style of coaching. I was a little tough
Uh-oh.
on the sideline over there. So I don't know.
Oh
I don't know if
my.
today's kids. I don't know if today's kids can handle that. I was tough, Carlos, but I was fair. And
Yeah.
I love my kids off the floor, that sort of thing. And I still got kids that call me now, asking about how I'm doing, and what's going on, Coach Brown, and all that sort of thing and stuff. So to me, that's the ultimate measure of respect. When 20, 30 years ago, from now, kids are still calling you and asking about you, and wondering how you're doing and things of that nature. So I think I did a pretty good job, but it's just a little tough out there now. I don't know that my style would be conducive to today's kids. I think today's kids, I like to say, they bigger, faster, stronger, and softer. So that's
Well,
my that's my kind of like my take on today's kids. So yeah.
yeah. Well, guys. Sometimes I was told that sometimes certain kids like the tough, the discipline. Coach Petaway made a point that you can talk to one player a certain way, and another player you you couldn't. You could be tough, like you say you were tough. Um, your experience, you experienced that as well. For example, I was listening to Jerry West one time. He said he could be much are tougher with Kobe Bryant, but Shaq was more on the sensitive side. So he kind of directed. He talked to him in a different way, Shaq, than Kobe. He could be much tougher and more frank with Kobe because he will respond with that, constructive criticism, whereas Shaq kind of could be in his feelings. In your coaching day, Coach Willer Brown, did you see any of that?
I definitely saw that. I think, certain kids can take, like you say, tough coaching. When I was a community college coach, most of my kids came from inner city Baltimore or inner city Washington, D.C. And those are different kinds of kids. They grew up or in that environment, and you can go at them a certain way that you normally may not be able to go against kids who were raised in Baltimore County or out in Columbia or in the suburbs of DC, that sort of thing. And so, you had to be mindful of that all the time, and you had to know what buttons you could push on each and every player. And but I was tough all the way around, but I knew which kids I had to build back up very quickly and which kids I could let my message just kind of stew for a while, so
Hmm.
that it could really sink in like I wanted to. But and I say soft, I don't know if soft is the word, but the quote unquote softer kids, you tear them down, you got to build them right back up very, very fast.
Mhm.
And, if not, they will take the messenger and not the message. I always say, look at grab the message. Don't pay any attention to the messenger. Just grab what it is that we're talking about. But it's just so much of the other way around now, to where kids are just so fragile now. And I see kids on the teams that we have on both our men's and women's basketball. I see it in football also. Kids are just so mentally fragile now. And they go in the opposite direction so easily. And you kind of wonder why that is, because for the most part, I like to say, their parents are pretty much somewhere, well, not close to my age, but, somewhere in that vicinity. And I would like to think that, most of the parents kind of grew up with that tough love, that sort of thing, but for some reason did not or did not want to pass that trait on, to their children. So it's something else now. It is really different out there now.
And
I
I
will say
guess.
this, Carlos. Oh,
Hmm. No, go ahead.
I,
Go
I
ahead.
will
Go
say,
ahead.
oh, I will say this, Carlos. I've dealt with a bunch of different coaches around here, from a Hall of Famer, Davey Whitney, who was tough, to some that were not quite that way, to a guy right now in Landon Bussey that's as straight as it comes, as hard nosed as it comes, as focused as it comes. And we've talked about this, and he is very upfront about it with me. Can't take this is not the program. Um, and last had one player transfer season for this
Charles,
case.
Charles, can you hear me? You're
These
breaking up
players are
again.
taking the tough coaching.
Charles is having a Wi-Fi moment, apparently. Charles, are you there? If you can hear me, log out and log back in. But I kind of was getting the gist of what he was saying, that being at Alcorn, Will, he works with a lot of different coaches, and coaches have personalities as well. We talked about earlier that teams take on the personality of their coaches. Now,
Hmm.
what I was going to ask you next is being on the coaching side. How did it prepare you to be a director of athletics? When I first met you, you were at Jackson State, and we will agree
Hmm.
that it is a tough job, and you can't do it alone. I think it's so important to have a good quality staff around you that can help you because you can't do it all by yourself. But how
And
did
that's
being an athlete to coach into a director of athletics, how was coaching or an athlete prepare you for being a director of athletics and some of the traits that you carried over to director of
I
athletics?
think it's all intertwined, Carlos. No
Hmm.
doubt about that. I think having been a coach allows me to see situations from the eyes of coaches. It allows me to empathize with them in terms of the tough situations that they're going through, the tough losses or, the situations with the kids, uh, trying to reach them in certain areas and things of that nature. So I think having coached before is definitely an asset. Uh, as it pertains to dealing with coaches, as it pertains to dealing with athletes. You've seen it all, you've done it all, you've heard it all. So nobody's going to come in the office and try to throw one over on you, that sort of thing, because chances are you've already heard that excuse before, and you know the makeup of the kids, and having been there before, that when kids are torn down, you gotta help build them back up, that sort of thing, and I always said a little thing, kids don't care what you know until they know that you care. And
Mm.
that's very, very, very true. Because they don't care nothing about your X's and O's and your athletic prowess and all that sort of thing and stuff until they know that you actually care about them in every way, shape, form, or fashion. And those are the kids that I found that will go through a brick wall for you. I mean, I could call a kid everything but a child of God. But
Mm.
those kids knew that I loved them. They knew that, if they had a problem or issue or something like that, they could always come to Coach Brown. And, they knew that, at the end of practice, I was taking probably 4 or 5 of them home, whether it was into Baltimore City or whether it was down to DC, that sort of thing. And, so a lot of times, we would kind of bond even more, on those particular journeys, on those rides. And, I mean, a lot of times I drop a kid off, Carlos, and wonder if I'm gonna see the kid the next day. When you're
Wow.
going through some of those neighborhoods, and I get back to school the next day, and if I saw the kid at some point during the day, I'll take a deep breath and like, oh yeah, okay, we made it one
Mm.
more time, that sort of thing and stuff. So, been around and have seen a lot, but I think the experience in terms of coaching has been invaluable in terms of helping to mold me as an athletic administrator. And I think it's a plus. I think coaches kind of respect you a little more because you've been in the fire, you've been there. They know that you know pretty much what you're talking about, and that you've gone through a lot of the situations that they're going through. And come evaluation time, I guess it can work for you or work against you, but the bottom
Mm.
line is, still got to check those boxes off, Carlos, and see where
Yeah.
we are, and make sure I's and T's are dotted and crossed in terms of the evaluation process.
And Willer, you've heard me mention, and we've had uh, discussions before. Um, I guess it's not for everybody, but how tough of a job it is being a director of athletics. And back to my earlier point, you've been on different levels. How important is it that to have a staff? And I would look at it as the same way if you're a head coach of a particular sport. You're as good as your staff, and do you need that staff to kind of push? Well, I'll use the term push back, but just not a yes man or a yes lady that will give you valuable feedback.
You gotta have that, Carlos. I've always said that. And an athletic director is only going to be as good as the people that he's allowed to surround himself with. And that goes for coaches, that goes for, your lower level administrators, your SWA, your compliance people, your assistant ADs, your sports information folk, I mean, your financial people, I mean, the whole 9 yards. The athletic director is only going to be as good as those people that he's able to surround himself with. And one weak link can sink the ship. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about that at all. So, a lot of times as an AD, you go into a situation where, you're pretty much inheriting what's there, that sort of thing. And so the
Hmm.
onus is on you to go in with an open mind, not listen to what everybody has to say about this person or that person. Those first 2, 3 months, Carlos, you really going to be in there trying to find out what you have, not just what you have from a coaching point of view, but what you have from an immediate staff point of view. Who brings what to the table, that sort of thing, and what kind of value do they bring? But can you trust them, him or her? Number one, and do they have your best interest at heart? More importantly, do they have the best interest of the university, of the department at heart? So while a lot of people think that it's about hiring and firing of coaches,
Hmm.
it's much deeper than that. And when folk ask me what's the toughest part of being a director of athletics, Carlos, I tell people all the time, it's being able to separate the business side of things from the human side of things.
Hmm.
Because you have to be able to draw that line, even though they intertwine for the most part. Like I tell folk, like right now, my men's and women's basketball team travel on the same bus. Okay, and that's from the business side of things. But the human side of me wants to put them on separate buses. Simply so they can stretch out and, relax, that sort of thing and stuff. And, so somehow, sometimes you can't separate the two. So what I try to do now is for long trips. When I say long trips, we're talking like 4 hours or better. I try to put them on separate buses. But if it's a short trip, like, takes maybe about an hour and a half to get to Atlanta, that sort of thing, put them on the same bus. So you try to find that happy medium in between, but, when you're at a HBCU, and that funding is limited in nature, you have to try to find creative ways to stretch the dollar, to make it stretch. So it means that, where in some instances you probably would like to buy new uniforms every year or every other year, that sort of thing. Now you find yourself trying to stretch uniforms for, 2 years, maybe 3 years before you get a new set, all that sort of thing. And so, those are things you have to be mindful of, at the same time, athletics or is supposed to be the front porch of the university. And so, my mantra is that I want our kids looking nice all the time.
Hmm.
Somebody will see Fort Valley State for the first time at a basketball game. And so I'm mindful of what vision or what view they will take from having been at a Fort Valley State University basketball game. So I don't want my kids, my basketball teams riding up in 15 passenger vans. because I don't think that's a good look. When they
Hmm.
pull up in front of the arena, getting out of vans, that sort of thing. You just lost two recruits right there. Yeah, I mean, so if they see you getting off of 55 passenger bus, that sort of thing, even though you may not have a dime, Carlos, at least if
Mm.
you looking like you do, it may help to sway somebody in terms of driving them to your school. And maybe not necessarily as an athlete, but as just a regular student. So
Yeah.
people that see Fort Valley State for the first time, you want them to be able to take a certain picture back with them, to the point where somebody will say, hey, let me check out Fort Valley State. Or, and that's why your website is so important. That's why all those little small things that a lot of people don't pay attention to become very important because they're selling points for you.
That's very interesting. We're visiting with Willa Brown, Director of Athletics at Fort Valley State, now joined back by Charles Edmond. And, you know, guys, a lot has been said. By the way, Bethune Cookman, that situation with a new football coach. But if I could, Willer, if you were in that situation as director of athletics, or if they would consult with you, and you talked about perception, how can how can Bethune Cookman um, kind of get that perception back where it's a good look? And if you were the director of athletics at Bethune Cookman, what would be the first plan of attack to get things to where they should be?
Well, it's gonna be tough. Number one,
Hmm.
no doubt about that, because you've already stepped in it. So now, you're trying to clean off your shoes, that sort of thing and stuff, and trying to get the ship upright. Yeah, but I mean, the first thing is appearance.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to build a locker room in a day, so it's not going to happen. But you want to appear that you're taking steps in the direction necessary to give the appearance that you're going to address the issues that may be there. So the thing with the uniforms and all that sort of thing, and where they're being kept, and all the things that go with that. You gotta rectify. Those are things you can rectify right away. And you can put a better spin on that. You can order new uniforms. You can order enough helmets so that everybody has their own helmet. If that's an issue, you can order shoes so that kids aren't sharing shoes, and things like that. You can uh, uh, improve facilities to be able to wash the clothes, and those things you can take care of right away, and you can give the appearance that we're going to move in the proper direction. So those are first and foremost. They're going to have to do a bang up job in terms of publicity wise. They're going to have to open those doors up and allow folk to come in and see what's going on and see the progress. And they can't, you can't hide these things, that sort of thing. And so they're just going to have to put the best face forward, and let's ride through it, and get it done. But it's not something that can't be done. Bethune was winning prior to the last couple of years. When
Hmm.
when Brian Jenkins was the coach, I think he won like 3 MEAC titles in a row, or something to that effect. So, I mean, when Alvin Wyatt was the coach there, they did a lot of winning. So, I mean, even with the handicap circumstances, they were still winning. So, there's no reason why they can't get back to winning, while they continue to improve in the areas that they're going to need to improve on, in terms of, all the issues that have been put out there, for public consumption. So, but it's going to take a concerted effort, a collaborative effort on everybody's part, and everybody going to have to roll up their sleeves and just go get it. Stop listening to the chatter. Stop listening to the nonsense, and let's go to work. Let's get to work. And I think if
Let's get
everybody takes that attitude, I think they'll be back in the swing of things before you know it.
well, Will and Charles. I have an interesting question because you have people saying that they're shocked. They disagree with AD that's also doing dual roles, basketball coach and director of athletic. Guys, is it important, more important to have just that single role, AD just being an AD, than you know having dual roles? Is that important? How important is it, or is it not important? What do you guys think?
I think
Well,
it's critical.
There
For
you go.
Well, I'll just jump in quickly for. Okay, and of
hmm
course Wheeler's in it, so he knows how this stuff works. But Reggie Theus is the basketball coach slash AD, and to see him juggle all these balls over the last few weeks about that situation, I kind of feel for him because he's trying to win basketball games, and yet he's got to deal with this situation, which is probably a 30-hour a day, 380 days a year thing when you're talking about cleaning up the image, cleaning up the football program, which has won probably with some of the same circumstances, but they just had good coaches and good talent to get through it. I think they need to separate it, but I also respect and understand the financial challenges if there's any, in terms of if you're going to pay an AD X amount of dollars and then you got to pay a basketball coach another X amount of dollars. So they're trying to kill two birds with one stone. I don't know if that's just a professional philosophy. I don't know if that's just financially they're just tied up to where they just can't do it. I don't know. Reggie Theus being a Hall of Famer and bringing him on board, I guess maybe you could save a few dollars by making them dual roles. I don't know. But it now with what's going on there, in my opinion, and again, I'm an HBCU product, I think you have to separate it. I think you've got to have an AD do the AD role like a Wheeler Brown, not be a coach just to be a coach. I think that's what has to happen going forward and that hasn't been discussed either too much other than on social media. I mean, I do think that needs to happen. The question is, will it happen? And I would say probably right now, Bethune Cookman, just my guess from the outside looking in, no. I think that's not going to change unless somebody drops a dime or a quarter or a dollar to separate it to where you just got one person doing one, another person doing another. But I think it is time to answer your question. It is time to separate it. It's been time. I don't think you have that in too many places. And the SWAC, it used to be that way. Eddie Robinson was the AD slash football coach back 30 years ago, but those days are long gone. It's time to separate that thing. And I hope Bethune Cookman does that because I think it'll be in the best interest of everybody at that university.
and Charles is exactly right, Carlos. No doubt about that. You got to separate those two positions. There's not enough hours in the day just simply for an AD. And when you throw in the basketball coaching duties, I mean, it's got to be overwhelming for Reggie Theus. And I'm sure it was, as Charles said, it was probably a financial situation. It's easier for them to combine the two salaries in order probably to be able to pay this guy, what they felt that ultimately he was worth, that sort of thing. But if you're not able to be fully staffed in terms of assistant ADs and associate ADs and all that sort of thing, if you don't have somebody else that's helping to run the day-to-day operations of the department, and then they're expecting you to go out and raise monies and things of that nature also, you just can't do it all and be a coach too. Something is going to suffer. You're going to lose a handle on something, whether it is from your AD role or from your coach's role. I don't know what Bethune's men's basketball record is right now. Uh, it got to be suffering a little bit, because of exactly what's going on, and you got to separate those positions. And as a matter of fact, I think the NCAA pretty much frowns on the dual roles. They don't have a law, quote unquote, against it, but they really frown on ads being coaches and things of that nature. You may see it a little bit more on the Division II and maybe Division III levels, but from a Division I level, they definitely don't like that particular look, and something's going to skip. Something's going to be missing there, while they still are doing that. And at some point in time, they're going to have to just find the money necessary to separate the positions, and if you're a coach, it's only natural that your mindset is going to be towards your particular sport. So I may slide a few more dollars towards basketball if I'm the AD and the basketball coach, as opposed to track or that, and the coaches of the other sports got to feel that way also. So it's a catch-22 there, in terms of that situation. But they're probably going to have to separate it at some point in time. Just don't know when and where right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm in agreement. I asked the question and wanted your comments and perspective on it, but I also agree. Um, you you, you got to have a single role. The director of athletics, they're going to deal with athletics and have to have a great staff around them to get things done. A basketball coach has to be a basketball coach. Now, sometimes I understand things happen on an interim basis. You may have a dual role, but that's only for a short point of time, a short term. But full time, nah, it's not going to be productive as all. Guys, closing comments. We got a minute left.
Charles or
Yeah, Charles. Oh boy, Charles having Wi-Fi issues again. Looks like it. Well, Willa, you go ahead and maybe
One of
we'll
those
get
days.
Charles back. Go ahead, Willer.
okay.
Closing comment.
Uh, As always, Carlos, I'm grateful to, be a part of your show, that sort of thing. Looking at the Bethune-Cookman situation, I'm glad that, the madness has quote unquote stopped and, they're trying to return to some sense of normalcy. I will say this though, Carlos, everybody puts a lot of stock on National Signing Day, which just transpired, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And because I'm getting calls now in terms of, well, Fort Valley ain't, sign a whole lot of kids, that sort of thing. So, I'm telling folk right now, it's not about quantity, it's about quality.
Yes, sir.
And on our level, if you signing a bunch of kids during the early signing period, okay, you can't put a whole lot of stock in that. Because
Hmm.
what we want to do on a Division II level is wait until the big boys have, picked through everything and the dust has settled and, the good kids have decided that I'm not going to Alabama now, I'm not going to Alabama State. Maybe I can take a look at Fort Valley State now and see what they're offering and what they're bringing to the table, that sort of thing. So, our best work is yet to be done, and I'm sure a lot of the Division II coaches feel the same, as well as some of the FCS Division I guys.
Yep.
I think we all kind of feel.
I, I I understand, Willer. It's been a pleasure having you on, and I'm not going to be able to get to it, but next week I promise. Southern's 2023 signing class. We'll put that up early for you. Once again, want to congratulate Coach Roger Cador and Ricky Weeks being introduced into the National College Baseball Hall of Fame. Also, Southern University Lady Bowling Team 4-1 on day one of round two. I want to thank our guest Charles Edmond, Coach Van Pettaway, Willa Brown, and producing Melody. Appreciate everyone watching. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time for another edition of the Coles Brown Show, exclusively right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until next time, as always, peace and God bless.